The Sweet Sound of Success show is brought to you by the Mentor Studio. The Mentor Studio is an exclusive mentoring and training program for social influencers, business owners, entrepreneurs, coaches, and startups, bringing personal development to the underserved around the world. And brought to you by Success Strategists. Simple strategies that work to develop your business with flow and ease using proven strategies and the right tactics. This is the Sweet Sound of Success with Sue Wilhite, Profit Attraction Master. Sopheia McMorris is an executive wisdom mentor, certified professional transformation life coach, and CEO of Wisdom Speaks Life. She helps support people in overcoming anxiety, being able to prioritize and give themselves the gift of permission to say what they want and need, and allows them to live a successful life on their terms, driving their destiny. Please welcome Sopheia McMorris. Woo!
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Oh, you're so welcome. And I love how you're using your company name and your given name, Sopheia and Wisdom, and linking those together. That is so cool. Yeah, I love it. Absolutely love it. So for those of you who are just tuning into my show, and this is the first time that you've encountered the Sweet Sound of Success, the subtitle of the show is The Hero's Journey for the Entrepreneur's Soul. And as such, I'm using as kind of an overarching theme the hero's journey pattern that was created and popularized by Joseph Campbell. Now, his cycle for the hero's journey has about 16 steps. We're not using all those. There's not enough time to do all of that. So we're just doing 5 of those. And the 5 that we're going to go over with Sopheia today are the ordinary beginning, which I always giggle about because there is no such thing as an ordinary beginning. The call to action, what prompted Sopheia to get up and be an entrepreneur, and the big hairy monsters. Now, what I have discovered through doing these episodes is that the big hairy monsters and the call to action sometimes end up being the same thing. So we'll just see how those two kind of work together. Sometimes you find them before, sometimes you find them after the call to action. Sometimes it's both. And then things that I think are so important for entrepreneurs and other folks to learn is, who are the allies? Who are the mentors? Who are the folks that guide, support, help, keep our chin above water, keep our nose above water sometimes, and keep us going in our entrepreneurial journey. And then finally, there's what Joseph Campbell calls the journey home. And the journey home is, how do people around us who are perhaps not entrepreneurs deal with us being entrepreneurs? Sometimes that's an interesting question. And we'll see how that turns out today. But before we get to that point, let's talk about, what is your ordinary beginning, Sopheia?
Well, my ordinary beginning started with coming from Jamaica to the US and living here, going to school, and then that's when my struggle started.
Wow. Yes.
Yes.
Wonderful. My teacher lives half in Jamaica and half in the US. So I've got, definitely, that's like moved way up in my bucket list.
Okay.
To visit Jamaica. But it's a heck of a culture shock, isn't it?
Yes, it's very much a culture shock, and I think I was, suffering from some of that culture shock as well, and so that's how my story began.
Right,
Um, the story of me struggling with my weight.
right,
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
So what prompted you to become an entrepreneur? What was leading up to that? What was the call to action?
Well, the call to action for me, well, let's start where I started the struggle, and it went on for years and years, and so I felt like I was going around the mountain, just walking in the same place over and over again. And what that looked like for me going around the mountain was like 3 months out of the year, I would do a diet, exercise, some kind of cleanse, detox, something. I would lose 50 pounds and then start a party. And by the end of the year, I would have gained back the 50 pounds and then some, and I would have to start over again. And so a lot for many, many years, my New Year's resolution was lose weight and get healthy. That was it.
Right.
And so I just kept cycling. Yes.
Wow. So that's literally like climbing the mountain and then sliding back down and then climbing the mountain and sliding.
Yes. But I felt like it was just going around in the same pattern, just circling.
Yeah.
I wasn't getting to the top. I wasn't getting over. I wasn't,
You weren't making any progress.
No.
Yeah.
So well, so I knew I had to do something different after cycling so many times. So I signed up for weight loss surgery and waited 6 months for a surgery date and did not get one. I was again frustrated and disappointed and overwhelmed and just going through a lot of emotions. And so I sat down one day to meditate, and this was when I experienced what I call my breakthrough light bulb moment. I read a quote, and it said, "Beloved, I wish above all things that thou would prosper and be in health, even as thy soul prosper." And so as the word soul spoke to me, I was just like, oh my goodness, I've read this so many times before. It never spoke to me like this before. I started asking questions. What's my soul? What's my soul's prosperity? How can I prosper my soul? And how can it help me lose weight and keep it off?
Right, right.
So
Sopheia, could you say that quote again? Because I want people to hear that. That is such a powerful quote. Yes. And I want that to really sink in for people. So could you say it again?
Yes. It says, "Beloved, I wish above all things that thou would prosper and be in health, even as thy soul prosper." That's the quote. And I was just like, for me, it was like, soul, what is that? What is that? Yes. Yeah.
Wow. So that was your call to action.
Yes, that was definitely my call to action. And so I started on a journey of self-discovery, and I found my journey in self-mastery. So that was like, it was like, how does all this work? And really just a deep dive into discovering myself, and what I was about and who I was and what I needed and all of those things and how this was going to help me. So I went on from there to releasing all the weight of the past and then really being able to lose 100 pounds.
Nice.
Without the surgery. So right. I was just like, oh my goodness. So after that, I came to a place where I now needed to share with everybody I knew, because I was like, I have figured it out. I figured it out. I'm finally making that forward movement that I needed to make. I'm taking responsibility, learning things like consistency and all of those things that were necessary that I wasn't employing before. I kept doing the same steps, but I needed to do so much more. So what it looked like now, instead of doing dieting for 3 months, I would do it until I reached my goal. And so that was every day, all day, one step at a time, one foot in front of the other, until I reached success. And then, oh, by the way, it wasn't ended there. I needed to now maintain. So then we had to employ, some other forms of patience and perseverance,
Right.
and all of those things. Yeah.
Right, right. So you needed to get to know you
Yes.
and who you were and what
Yes.
you were all about,
Yes.
which, I tell people all the time, there's selfish, which is about being greedy and feeling a lack. And then there's being self-ish, where if you can put yourself first
Yes.
and figure out who you are and what you need and get it. I mean, that quote you have, beloved, I want of all things. It's like, no, really, folks, just learn to love yourself and it gets so much easier.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think for me as well, like when I started there, I didn't really get to the self-love. And this was how I was going to get to the self-love. So one day I sat down and I heard a voice. I like to believe that was God speaking to me. And he said, do you know why you eat sweet foods? And I was just like, no. and I was just like, oh, okay. And he was like, the reason why is because you want sweetness in your life. You want someone to be sweet to you. You want to be able to have that connection. And I was just like, all of a sudden, again, that was another light bulb moment for me, because what it showed me was that I was using food to replace the connection that I wanted in my life, the sweetness that came with having that bond and connecting with somebody. And so now I had to find a way to give that to myself. So what I did was I developed a persona, big girl Sopheia and baby girl Sopheia. Aww. And so, whenever baby girl Sopheia was in need, big girl Sopheia would show up. And she would just embrace her. I learned to nurture myself. I learned to practice self-love and compassion and kindness, learning to forgive myself for whatever it is, whether I ate something that I wasn't supposed to eat, or, wasn't, feeling so good, or said some unkind words to myself, because I had a practice of punishment that I would use for myself when I was going through, this whole journey. Well, before the journey started, I would do punishments. So I would sit down and then I would say, you were bad. You ate, a whole brownie pie. And then now you have to, do a diet of apple and, just eating an apple and drinking chicken broth until you lose the weight and all those kind of things.
This is definitely not sweetness.
No. And so I had to really learn to love myself and embrace myself, and to give myself that space to, to practice kindness and empathy and forgiveness and love for myself. So that way, and then to think about, how would I treat a small child if I saw them in need? And so my heart would naturally just go out to want to take care of that child and provide good care for them so that they can feel safe and they can feel comforted. And so I had to be willing to do the same for myself.
Wow. I'm thinking about that old phrase, that old saying that my mom used to say to me, you can catch more flies with honey than you can with vinegar.
Yes.
But nobody ever tells you to apply that to yourself.
Exactly. Because we always say, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. And I like to turn that around to saying, do unto yourself as you would do unto others, because it's always us doing unto others. We give our best selves away to other people and to their needs and to their wants and to their desires, but we never seem to apply that to ourselves. We never seem to prioritize ourselves, give ourselves the permission to do the things that we want, to live our lives the way we want, to be who we want to be, to live life on our own terms and drive our own destiny. We don't give ourselves those permissions, but we give that to other people.
Exactly. Yeah. So that sounds like the big hairy monsters.
Yes.
We're all wrapped up in there. right?
Yes, yes.
Going from the self-talk and even, I'd venture to say it's not necessarily come up in what you've said, but I venture to say that even society's attitude
Mhm,
toward folks who have a few pounds on their frame
mhm.
is not gentle, kind, or in any way loaded with honey. there's a lot
Right.
of there's a lot of fat shaming out there.
Yes.
It's
Yes.
just horrible. It's
Right.
absolutely dreadful. So it just feeds into that feeling of being a bad person when you've
Right.
got that reflection going on. So
Exactly.
yeah, that's another whole big hairy monster
Yes. Yes.
is
Yes.
all of that's going on.
Exactly.
So besides, and I don't want to make this sound mocking at all because I've had those voices too. Besides the voices, the support of what we call the supernatural forces that are there to support, who in human terms has been a support for you or a guide or a mentor?
Well, I would say my mom definitely has been, very much there for me in being a guide. I think during this period of time, I wasn't really communicating with her that much. But
Mhm.
one of the persons that influenced me in moving to being an entrepreneur was Les Brown.
Oh
And
yes.
the way it happened was I was in college and he came to the college to speak. And so I went to hear him talk. And so while I was there, I just remember there was just so much laughter. Like people were laughing and having a good time and everything. And I was in my struggle. So for me, it was not funny. I was looking,
Um,
I came out and I was just like, I started asking myself questions like, what happens when the joke is over, when the laughter is over, when a week, a day, a month, a year, even what happens when that's over and it's no longer funny? Where are the tools for us to really change our lives? And
right.
so I started on this questioning, and in the process of questioning, um I thought about it. I said, I'm going to be a motivational speaker because I'm going to create tools for people that's going to really help them, when the time gets tough, when there's no laughter, when there's no joke and we're not having a good time, but when those times are hard. And so that was actually my time, so he prompted me. What happened was he prompted me to ask the question, but to also become the answer. And so that is something that I've carried with me always. And so I have like a promo video, and that's a part of my promo video as well, because it made such a significant difference in my life, is that I needed to be the answer. And so I ended up being the answer for people that, for somewhere for them to turn and being able to understand and be a listening ear.
That is so cool.
Yeah.
That is wonderful. And I bet if you ever meet Les Brown and tell him about that, he'd be delighted.
Yeah. Yes,
Yeah,
yes. Yeah.
that is fabulous. And it's so important, that's a really different take on a guide or a mentor,
Mhm.
is seeing what they're saying and going, yeah, but there's something missing in there. I need to go fill that gap,
Yes,
which is
yes.
really cool. That's an
Yeah.
awesome thing.
Well, when I was thinking about it, I had not ever thought about being in that position. I mean, I just knew that that day, the questions that I was asking, I needed to find that place where they were going to be satisfied,
Yes,
where people were going to be able to connect to something. And it's like it's so important to have, tools and different things like that to help you be able to unpack your story and then be able to take the next necessary step in doing that.
absolutely. Absolutely. So was there any kind of pushback when you decided to be an entrepreneur and go and share your message and your techniques and your guidance and your mentorship? What was the reaction when you were doing this, or any other reaction along the way?
Well, I definitely felt like some of the people around me was not in support of what I was doing. And and so I have this thing where I felt like I was on my own. But one of the things that I do now in my own course is that because of that experience, I now realize that I needed to put somebody or something in place to help support people while they're on their journey. Because the reality is we don't always get the support that we're looking for from the people around us. And so I encourage people to connect to, creator, God, higher power, universe, whoever you call, and whatever you call it, because that's going to be a source for you of support for you when things get tough and you have no one to turn to. You want to know that somebody's there for you. Somebody's going to have your back and your front and your sides too. Right. While you're going through, the transformation and the journey to becoming your higher self. So I definitely encourage people to do that, because that's something that I had to do for myself as well. I really had to lean in to that connection in order to get through some of the tough times.
Right. Yeah. In one of the personal development classes that I took years ago, they said, you're starting this transformational journey and you're going to be a twig in the flood trying to go upstream, because you've suddenly said, wow, this thing that I've been doing, this current that I've been following, this nice, comfortable way of being that I've been all this time, I'm suddenly turning around and going upstream. I'm going to be different. I'm going to be changed. And the flood is going to try to just push you backwards.
Exactly.
And if you don't have that support, it's very, very tough to keep swimming upstream until you finally get to a point where you make it. Where you're just like, okay, I'm just sailing. I've got my little motorboat and I'm just going.
Right. Definitely.
Yeah. Well, wonderful. This is a fantastic, awesome journey. I love it, Sopheia. This is
Thank
great.
You.
And I understand that for my listeners and viewers, you actually have something for them, presumably to help them along their journey. What is that?
Yes. So it's a complimentary life assessment. So what it does is just really helps you to get very clear and focused about where you are and what you're doing. It helps you to, rediscover your voice and really help you to, identify the things that you need to work on, or that you would like to work on, or you can work on, in assessing yourself, just so you can get that clarity and that focus. And then it also gives you some prompts on what it is that you can do to start your journey into transformation.
Nice. Very nice. Links here.
Yeah.
And there will be links in the end notes, and there will be links in the show notes. So the links will be everywhere. You'll be able to get that assessment and get yourself started. Or if you've already started, get another tool in your toolbox for figuring out where you are and what you need. Because sometimes you need multiples. Sometimes you need, like you said, you've probably encountered that quote before, but boom,
exactly.
You never know. You never know. You must, if you're going to be an entrepreneur, if you're going to be on a transformational journey, you must maintain beginner's mind 100% of the time.
Yes.
You don't say, well, I've already done that. I've already been there. No. You haven't done Sopheia's.
Yeah.
You don't know. So download her thing. We'll have the links there, and get to know yourself.
Yes, exactly. One of the things I'll say is that a lot of time I come across people that says, well, I know that. And as a people, we do have a lot of information because there's information everywhere. We do have a lot of information, but what we don't have a lot of times is the understanding of the information or the wisdom to apply the information to our situation so that we can actually make changes. And then actually also having the willingness to do what you need to do so you can do what you want to do, and closing the gap between where you find yourself now and where you want to be.
Absolutely. Oh, yeah. True that. Yeah. So, yeah. Well, thank you so much, Sopheia, for being on my show. This has been a fantastic, as I said before, transformational journey. I love your story. I love what you had that light bulb moment that really, that's, to me, that's the best.
Yes, because I now have information that I can actually do something with, before you were just like spinning, but now I was going to go on a new path. I was going to clear some places and, go up and over the mountain and get to the other side. And so, yeah.
So thank you again. And thank you to my viewers and listeners of The Sweet Sound of Success.
Thank you. Well, thank you so much for having me. It was absolutely great speaking with you.
Oh, you're very welcome. My pleasure.
Yes, thank you.
What are your dreams for your business? You know what drives me crazy? Really smart business owners denying their talents because they've been taught it has to be hard, because they've been taught that they don't deserve their gifts, that they're not worth anything. They've been taught that their gender means they can't express their genius. I'm Sue Wilhite, and I want you to have access to your genius. I want you to go out and rock the world with your genius. So I created the Call to Action coaching program. It's all about getting to the heart of you and what you've got to share with the world to make a profitable business that thrives and allows you to make a difference in the world. Click the link to sign up for the Call to Action coaching program today. Don't let your genius go unnoticed.